I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a conversation happening about fuel prices at the pumps. And you know how important they are to all of us, because once fuel prices go up or down at the pumps, it tends to affect everybody else. It affects inflation, and there's a knock-on effect when it comes to the cost of living. But there's something happening that I want to unpack a bit more and interrogate. Fuel prices are going down globally, but also locally. It's supposed to be going down, but the criticism is it's not going down fast enough, although all the factors that must conspire to ensure that prices of the product at the pumps go down are all pretty favorable as we speak. We're going to be interrogating this and lifting the lid on it a bit more. Of course, this is the equation that adds up to either inflict pain or, in this case, inflict a bit more of a relief on all of us. If you look at world crude prices, they've dropped by some 14% since January. And then you look at the fuel prices. If you add the two and everything else is going down, you should invariably begin to see transport fares go down. And then you throw in the additional factor of the dollar CD stability, which again in the last few weeks has been pretty stable. We are in a pretty good place for us to see this happen. It is only when you begin to see transport fares beginning to respond to these factors, then you can appreciate its impact on your pocket. So if I say all these factors are trending positive and favorably, why are you not feeling it in your pocket? Well, we'll get to ask that question. So what we did was to take the oil prices, and of course, oil becomes a benchmark for a lot of things we do in this country. When you're driving and you see a oil filling station, you're checking its price against whatever you're seeing at other OMCs. And what we begin to see is that if it comes to February, it's been dropping very consistently from February 25th all the way to what we are now to February 25th. It's projected to continue to drop at the pumps, right? But is it dropping fast enough? Is the benefit being transferred to you? Because trust me, if these factors were trending upwards, these OMCs would not hesitate in a second to pass on the cost on to you. So that we're seeing the prices dropping. Yes, this is dropping, and the blue line you see there is the line for petrol, which most of us use, and that is the fastest dropping yet. And if you look at it in terms of real terms, petrol has gone down by some 0.86%. And it matters. Don't tell me this doesn't matter. It matters because if you're buying a liter and you're gaining this much, that is significant. And you look at diesel too, the same. And crude oil prices are also going down by 14%. That is also pretty good. And then you look at the crude oil price trends over the period, and you see how significant it's dropped over the period as you measure it, looking at the oil price as a source, which we glean from there. And then the US GHS city trends also tells us a very interesting story. What you see at the tail end of this particular graph, where I'm closer to here, is stability. That stability. It's been a while since we saw any particular drop or rise, but it's stable. And stability, when it comes to the exchange rate, is good for business, right? And so these are pretty positive indicators. But then the OMCs, the oil marketing companies, say, well, look, you are not seeing the direct benefits at the pumps just yet as much as you expect. It's gone down somewhat, but not as fast as you expect because of a few factors. It says red tape from the MPA. What exactly is red tape from the MPA? We tried to get the MPA on the show. Hopefully we can get them to clarify this because you want to see that windfall and feel it in your pocket as well. And then it's a question about they've bought stock already. Stock that did not fall within this window when all these factors I've been pointing to were trending positive. And so they have to clear that stock at the old price. And that's why maybe you're not seeing it. We will interrogate that. I don't want to take that at face value. But let's sit and have a conversation because this is something that affects your pocket and mine as well. And what about the transport fares, by the way? Because spare parts, the other factor that GPRTU and others will consider in fixing the new prices is also doing pretty well in terms of the city's stability there. It's supposed to have a positive rub-off. So why are we hearing all this chatter about a fight for a raise in transport fares. Bread and butter conversation here on PM Express. Stay with me after this. And thanks for joining us here on PM Express. And let's have a conversation about the current state of affairs when it comes to the fuel prices of the pumps and what tends to be a very positive outlook. But is that translating in real savings in your pocket just yet? And if it's not, why? We'll be talking to the energy minister on that particular question, because how can they ensure that those gains reflect before the prices begin to climb back up? If there is a windfall, we must feel it. But let's unpack this. It's a bit more complex than simply stating that you should feel it in your pocket. PMX is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. It is also brought to you by Academic Times and Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste that we recommend to you. And let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It is simple. If your tank doesn't have tortoise on it, then it is not the correct tank. Yes, that's right. The tortoise tank, Syntax tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, it is durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntax tank has your back. So, my people, go outside, check your tank, and if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntax tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. 0244 335 168, or simply go online and check them out there too. Now you can get your agents across the country who will also serve you. You're strong, you're tough. And then you have to pay attention to the Academic Times Journal too. It's launching soon with 3 distinctive graphic publications and a journal to showcase, empower students across educational levels, while the journal and the Tertiary G seeks to ensure that tertiary students really bring their research to life. So look out for that. And then the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is key tonight. If you want to brush your teeth, and you should, get one. My guest joining me for a conversation tonight on this all-important matter. If you've been to the pumps recently, you would have seen some marginal declines there. It is the 3rd consecutive time we've seen the price go down at the pumps. Can this be sustained at least? Let's have that conversation. Joining me for that is Samuel Amwa. He's a public relations officer with the GPRTU. I bring them in for obvious reasons. When all this adds up, it has to somehow translate to benefits to the general public, not only to those who own private vehicles like myself. If the only way you can feel it too if you don't have a vehicle and you take trotro is if the GPRTU and others decide to reduce their prices. When was the last time you even heard that they're even considering a reduction in price? But the factors now are rife for that to happen. So let's interrogate why they're not thinking about that just yet. Dr. Robertson Opon is the CEO of the Industry Coordinator 2, the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, joins us. Those two combined roles are pretty important at the OMC, both the CEO and Industry Coordinator. The best person to talk to really joins us. Nana Moisi also joins us. He is the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Securities. And it is to him I go first. Nana, I wanted to give me a sense of your own understanding of what is happening with the prices of the pumps. And I'll bring in the sector minister who will join us for a brief chat, basically on how state agencies can work with the private sector, OMCs, the transport companies, to reflect these gains in our pockets pretty shortly. They have the power there, particularly the MPA that regulates the sector. But then tell me, when you look at what has been happening on the global scene, but also locally, we've seen the pumps, I believe, the 3rd consecutive reduction, or what should be the 3rd consecutive reduction in prices of the pumps. First, what is accounting for this from where you sit?
Good evening to you, Evans, and to your viewers. It is true. The market has been recording some, positive outlook over the past 2 weeks. This is probably due to events on the world market, largely because in the first pricing window of this year, for February, petrol was selling for $731 per metric ton on the world market. In the second pricing window of same month of February 2025, it plunged down to $722 per metric ton. And in the first pricing window, a period that we are discussing, the price of petrol fell to $709 per metric ton on the world market. For diesel, It opened the first window in February of this year at $742 per metric ton. And in the first pricing window of March, $720 per metric ton. It means that event on the world market is boding well for our domestic market in terms of price. And so if the world market price falls, then of course there's a likelihood that domestic fuel price will equally fall. Evans, let's note this here. There are probably 3 or 4 key variables that we'll look at when we want to predict or probably foretell the price of fuel on our own domestic market. It's the international price of these fuels because we are largely exposed to this event because we import as a country largely. Our refineries are not working, except for the teapot refineries like Aquaba and Platon, with that less than probably 1,000 metric ton per day. Samara refinery is not working, Senti is not working. So we import almost more than 98% of our fuel. And so whatever happened on the world market hits us here. Also, we import in dollars because the fuel we buy is in dollars, the crude oil we buy is equally in dollars, but we sell in cities. And so if the importing currency, the dollar, is behaving stronger than our own local currency at which we sell our fuel and probably have to exchange it for the dollar and go and buy the next consignment. If that's happening, then of course we are also losing at that end. The next is that if government chooses to do or introduce taxes and levies, then it could move up the price of fuel. If they introduce subsidies, it could equally bring it down. And so the world market price, taxes and levies, then the forex exposure are the things that determine where the direction of fuel prices. In the last 3 weeks, international price of fuels has been very positive towards the consumer in terms that it's been falling. The next is that we saw the dollar declining against the local currency, which is also positive. And so these 2 contributing factors is what we are talking about.
And then natural follow-up question is, the reductions that we are talking about at the pumps, is it falling fast enough at the pumps or steep enough at the pumps compared to all the positives that you just touched on? Are the OMCs shortchanging us?
Not at all. The OMCs are not shortchanging us because even though price of these fuels are falling on the world market for which we are gaining as consumers, equally, you can check on your own portal, Joy FM Online, last 3 days, the city is losing its streak against the dollar. And so now the city is losing its strength. If that happens, the benefit that we should have gained from the falling price of fuel on the world market, we lose that equally. And so what we are seeing on the domestic market is reflective of international market prices and also the forex exposure. And so I don't think that the OMCs are shortchanging us. If we want to see a further drop in prices, then we must work on the forex exposure, and probably government may choose to probably take away some of the margins or levies. That is when we will see more of that. But let's pray that this continues, because last year, for instance, at this point, in February 2024, the price of petrol on the world market was around $800 per metric ton. The price of diesel was around $807 per metric ton. And let's hope that price on the financial market will keep on falling, and our city will behave against the dollar.
Okay,
so we'll see probably a stabilization or a further fall in prices.
Yeah, so stay with me on that subject. I want to bring in Dr. Robertson Opon, he's the CEO and Industry Coordinator, Association of Oil Marketing Companies. Now, that's one view. Another view is expressed by COPEC, that organization that represents consumers. And they make a very important point. Quote, and this is Duncan Amwa, who heads that organization, makes the point that you are deliberately exploiting the consumers by failing to implement, he says, the full extent of mandated fuel price reductions. How do you respond to that?
Thank you so much, and good evening to you and your listeners. I'm glad to share my understanding to the question on the table today. I believe Nana Mwasi has made justice to the explanation he's given so far, and I'm personally happy that he referenced last year's prices that were hovering around 800 against today below 700. It's not true that my members will shortchange anybody, okay? If there's anybody at all that would take advantage of the industry or the downstream sector, I believe the OMCs are the last to even think about, because of the numbers of oil marketing companies we have and the fact that price is a determining factor for the ordinary Ghanaian to buy from. The differences when you look at even the crude oil price for last window versus versus that of this window, always shrink by 4%. But miraculously, you understand that the Brent price did not got down at the same rate the petrol and diesel at the Platt price did. So as Brent was doing 4% reduction, to be honest with you, we saw the Platt doing around 9 on petrol and 6% decrease on diesel. For the first time in a long while, we see Argos also coming down at 9%, which is very, very, very wonderful. And all these are geopolitics. It is not anybody's intervention as far as Africa is concerned, let me be honest. It's a matter of the geopolitical world at the other side, which determines the international benchmark. One thing I want to use this opportunity to say is that when MPA implemented the floor price, what has happened is that my members, which are the oil marketing companies and LPG marketing companies, would have to send their prices 24 hours before it shows at the station. This window starts on Monday, so we end the previous window on a Sunday. The reason why you saw most of the companies changing prices today, and I myself drove to Gore this morning and other filling stations on the Spinters Road, inquiring when they intend to change. I knew the answer, but I just wanted to be careful with not deciding for them. Yesterday, they sent emails to MPA that they were going to reduce their fuel prices, and indeed today we've seen many of the members changing it. It is a key thing that we need to understand, that there are systems in place, and don't assume, and I believe in the assumption that when fuel prices are going up, it is changed immediately, and when it's going down, we are sluggish.
What is the cumulative percentage drop over the last, say, 3 weeks when the global prices have been dropping and CD has been stabilizing?
So
if you factor in what we saw this morning.
Good. So when we monitored from the 16th February to the 1st March, we saw an average of 1.16 across most of our members.
1.16%.
Correct. That is proud to this particular window that we're talking about, right? We are here to monitor this by the end of the week and we'll probably give you the statistics.
Yeah, but COPEC says cumulatively it should have gone down petrol by 4.5%, diesel by 3.8%. I mean, what you just mentioned, even if you add what just went down today to it, it will amount to that.
This assumption is a forecast, and it's coming from COMAC, the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. All right, let me put that straight. And this came up, I think, on a Saturday that was published. And what a forecast, okay? What a forecast mean is that you are assuming. Okay, there are so many assumptions that goes in there. The forest is assumed. The margins of the OMCs are assumed, and that is why it's called a window. A window simply means that there is a lower bracket and there's an upper bracket. MPA regulates that even though the oil marketing company's business is fully deregulated. But at the same time, you cannot sell below certain, floor price, and you cannot sell above certain thresholds. All right. So if a member is selling within this bracket, MPA allows it, and the market plays with it.
So, do you anticipate then that we'll get anywhere close to the forecast? 4.5 for petrol and above 3 for diesel?
Yes, I believe it will be possible, and if all the constants, and I always want to put this in, very, very simple terms, and Nana Mwasi, with all due respect, mentioned the same thing. You should understand that 75% of the pump price is governed by something called the SREF price, which my members do not control. And if my members are not controlling 75% of the pass-through cost, it is very difficult for someone to say that it's oil marketing companies who are deliberately doing anything. When the SREF price is come from the BDCs. And I believe this kind of discussions also have the seaboard in the game, because see, if I have a stock, all right, in the past window at, let's say, 14, and today the new window is 12, the BDC doesn't mind. Is he going to take his 14, and who's going to pay for the difference? Is it the government? You, in case you're a businessman, what are they going to do? But at the same time, since the business, we run with a crazy market. It's price driven. It's a very fluid industry where volumes are moving every day. We don't really keep stock as the BDCs would. Okay, so as we're talking to the OMCs, we need to have a discussion. A very holistic discussion around at what point should we change our price? Because today you're just on the OMCs. Has this reflected at the BDC for the OMCs to be considerate? That's the first question you should ask yourself. And I believe just we controlling 5% of the pump price is not adequate for you to judge from the OMC's perspective.
Stay with me. And I will bring in the Energy Minister when he joins us pretty shortly, because it's important to see how policy can then come into play here. He says the reductions we've seen is commensurate with the reductions we've seen on the global market. Nana Mwasi, he's talked about just over 1% drop since the last window. If you add the current reductions, I am pretty certain we'll go just above 2% reduction at the pumps for petroleum products. Is that a fair reflection of the realities of CD stability, global crude oil price fall, or they should be closer to the forecast of 4%, 4.5% for petrol, for example, reduction?
Forgive me, I failed to introduce another dimension to this equation you've mentioned. You've mentioned three variables, but then let me share this one. You understand economics. I'm a mechanical engineer and a petroleum engineer, but you can understand the economics better. When there's a short supply of a product, prices will go negatively against the consumer, and when there's excess supply, the consumer benefits. Over the last 3 weeks, there's been a squeeze in the supply of diesel in particular across the country.
And is this deliberate artificial squeeze?
They cannot be artificial, but then I will probably blame it on planning. And so today, you have petrol on the market, in our own domestic market, selling at a discount, but you have diesel selling at a premium because most of the BDCs are looking for diesel to supply to the OMCs. When it becomes that case, then of course the dealers have the opportunity probably to squeeze prices as well against the consumer. When you go to the middle belt of the country in particular, diesel is selling higher than in Accra. And so the next I'm introducing to the question is a supply dimension. But I won't say that the OMCs, and I want to repeat again, that they are fleecing consumers. There is a regulator who ensures that there is a fair pricing of this product, and that is the MPA. Every window, the OMCs will have to send their indicative prices to the regulator, and they will vet and accept. And so if there's any shortchanging of consumers, of which I have not found, it cannot be blamed on the OMCs. But let's direct our attention to the regulator and ask them, are we getting a fair price for the product we are procuring? Even that's the point I want to.
And you're right on the money on that. And hopefully the sector minister under which the MPA operates will give us some clarity on how they're working to ensure that this is fairly reflected in our pockets. I want to bring in the GPRTU person in the conversation. Considering all the positives you're talking about right now, if it really needs to hit our pockets, then the GPRTU must play ball somehow. Joining me right now with that angle to the conversation is the GPRTU's spokesperson, and he obviously has been very key in reviewing what has been happening. The key question then is whether or not they are now contemplating a potential reduction in fares across the country. There is already a lot of chatter now around that, with some driver unions asking for an increase in fares instead, in spite of everything else that we've just been talking about. Samalamwa, thank you for joining us. Now, if you listen to the OMCs, they are clear that prices are falling, very close to 2% now, just over the last 3 weeks. And if you box in the reductions this morning, we are well over 2% drop in fuel prices at the pumps. And then you add to that, and one of the other factor for you, obviously, is the cost of spare parts. That is largely influenced by the stability of the cedi or otherwise, and its strength against the US dollar. You look at that too, and we're scoring some very great positives there. The cedi has largely stabilized against the dollar now. Are we going to see a reduction in fares because of these two very important factors?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and I'll say good evening to your viewers. Let me quickly make this correction. I'm the deputy PRO. The PRO himself is Abbas Ibrahim Moro, and I'm his deputy. Okay, so thank you very much. You see, the question you just asked, yes, we've seen some slight reductions of late, and then quite recently, we also heard of some of the transport operators, calling in that they are requesting or they are planning to increase the transport fare by 20%, of which the GPRTU came out. And then we came out to explain that we've not gotten there. If I'll take you back, before December, we were having that plans of increasing transport fares because of the high cost of spare parts, where the fuel price was also running to, the cost of lubricants, and as well as insurance and the DVLA taxes and all that. But then we hold our, coming up for this increment, we hold on, thinking that things will come down because of the promises that we had, that definitely going forward, things are going to come down. Yes, we have seen that, the fuel price is coming down a little bit, but then what I can say is that it has not gotten to where it will call for a reduction of this transport fares.
At which point would you then consider that reduction then? When you say point, what point is that?
Yes, we normally have a 10% threshold that we normally check on. We do check on where the fuel price was and where it has gotten to. Then let me also chip in this. We don't also consider only the fuel price to determine our transport fares. We have some other components like the spare parts, as I earlier mentioned. We have the lubricant, we have the taxes, and the petroleum product as well. So when it happens like that and want to consider whether we have to increase the transport fares or reduce it, We have a team that will go out to the market to go and check where those, percentages or where those components has gone to before they will bring their reports. Then we check on, either a percentage reduction or a percentage increment. If we check on the previous time that we had our, transport fare increment, I believe the fuel price was around 12 cedis there per liter, thereabout. I stand to be corrected. And it has now gotten to now, looking at it now, we are talking about diesel about 15.49 and petrol about 14.99. So we are praying that it should come down to at least around 12 cedis per liter thereabout. Then if it comes that way, we also check on the spare parts where it has also got into, because for where the spare parts is now, it will be difficult for us to reduce our transport fares.
Okay, so that there is a story. We should not expect any reduction, and there's a push for an increase in fares. You have clarified that is not something that will happen yet, but the other unions who are not part of the GPRTU are pushing for this, and I know you are in talks with them. Where are you in trying to get some consensus around this subject? Concerned drivers and others who want this dealt with in a way that will see an increase. Have you struck some understanding on when you're most likely to see any adjustment, either up or down, on prices, on fares?
Yes. We've done that. You see, if we check our records, we normally see sometimes the concerned drivers will come up with a statement that they want to increase transport fares quickly. GPRTU will come in, because normally when we want to talk about transport fare issues, it's GPRTU that does everything. Yes, quite recently we recorded a certain group, I think by name Alliance for Drivers Ghana, and checking on our records, I stand to be corrected. This is the first time hearing a group like that calling for a transport fare increment, of which we've done that. We came out and to let them understand that this is not a time to come up with a transport fare increment now, and should that thing happen, we have a method, we have a way of coming together to do that. So, if you can see, they were requesting that this fare increment, 20% fare increment, will begin from last Monday, 17th. But, it couldn't happen because of the influence that the GPRTU has. We quickly organize our members and we let them understand that, there's not going to be a transport fare increment. We are rather praying that the fuel price will still, come down drastically, as well as the spare parts. Then when it got to a certain point that we had to, come up with a reduction of transport fares, it will help all of us. There is one thing that I normally say, that increasing transport fares all the time doesn't even help with the transport operators, because when it happens like that, the passengers that do comes to our station, it normally comes down. We have some of the short distances that, sometimes passengers will come to the station to board vehicles. When they find out that the fares are too high, they may choose to walk instead of, coming to the station to board vehicles. So that is not our prayer, that all the time transport fares should just go up. Our prayer is that it should come down so that we all enjoy, whatever we are.
I mean, Dr. Rivers, I'll come to you pretty shortly. I want to bring in the Energy Minister who is joining us right now, John Jinapor. Mr. Jinapor, thank you very much for your time on PM Express. There's a conversation around the positive indicators that have conspired to see a reduction in the fuel prices at the pumps. Globally, we are seeing the crude prices fall, but also stabilizing. The prices at the pumps seem to have dropped quite a bit. We've just been talking to the OMCs who say we've seen a cumulative drop over the last 3 weeks, close to 2%. But there's also concern that the positive indicators are not reflecting necessarily in our pockets because the OMCs seem not to be fully transferring that to us positively. They dispute that, but from a government point of view, first give me your own understanding where you sit at the cabinet level, looking at all indicators. What are they? Have you done anything special to deal with for us to see these positive indicators being very favorable? Or these are just manifestations of global geopolitics, as the OMC will put it?
Well, if the currency is stable, certainly it will influence the prices. And the stability of the currency is a factor of economic management, both monetary and fiscal. Also, you are right, geopolitics would also influence the price of petroleum products, i.e., the international market price of petroleum products. But also how you even manage the competition, if you bring about efficiency, if you bring about predictability, if the exchange rate regime is managed in terms of how the central bank and government are able to guarantee forex, then arbitrariness is reduced. And that is also showing. So I think that it's a culmination of multiple factors. And if we can hold it that way, bearing any unforeseen circumstances, the prices should fairly be stable. In that case, the only variable that can be influencing the price will be the price of the commodity at the world market price. But things like exchange rate differentials and all the others, likely government can do something to hold it fairly down.
And what can government do to ensure that players in that value chain, such as the OMCs, pass on these benefits to the ordinary consumer?
Yeah, that is where the MP comes in strongly. As a regulator, it is the duty of the MP to ensure that if the price of commodity comes down, it reflects at the pump. Other than that, then you don't need a regulator. And so we would be working hand in hand with the MPA to monitor so that you don't have cartels colluding and fixing prices, the benefits not being transferred to the ordinary consumer. Because when the prices go up, they are quick to reflect that in their pricing. And so when it comes down, in the same vein, that should happen. And that's why the MPA would set a certain floor, taking into account the pricing formula, so that you don't also outcompete the smaller OMC. But clearly, competition should drive the prices down and not up. Because if yours is expensive, I'll go to the next filling station. But like I said, you also want to avoid collusion or cartelization, where the big boys can collude and kick out the small OMCs.
And your ministry obviously works with the BOG and others. The previous government tried to go for oil, or in this attempt to try and control the amount of forex that we'll need to bring in the products down to feed our OMCs, etc. You are trying a different approach. And the government at the time thought, if instead of getting the BDCs to look to take the cedis to go and buy the dollars that we needed, at that time there was estimated around 400 million a month or so to buy the products in. And that was obviously putting so much pressure on the cedi and leading to serious depreciation. Why don't we get gold instead and use that to exchange and get the products in? You are trying a different approach. How is that playing out in terms of its effectiveness in getting the products down, but also leading to stability on the market as far as forex is concerned?
The gold purchase is a good move, because when you purchase the gold and you export it, what happens is that then you have a full view or hold on the forex that comes. But the challenge with the previous system is that there were too many middlemen in the layers. And so you want to take all these middlemen out. And also you want to bring in the private sector players, the BDCs and the OMCs around the table so that there's a high level of transparency. And so currently it's been suspended. We are forming a joint committee which will be jointly chaired by the Deputy Minister of Finance and the Deputy Minister of Energy. They will sit around with all the players and develop a proper roadmap so that we can have a working roadmap that serves both government and the private sector, and also to avoid the situation where, under the previous administration, the Bank of Ghana was taking a major hit. So far, our record shows that the Bank of Ghana incurred huge losses, almost about $1 billion thereabouts. And so you might satisfy one arm, but then it's been taken through the other arm. We don't want that. We want a workable, efficient system that protects both government and the private sector player and make that forex available. But clearly, I fully endorse the purchase of gold and using that forex to backstop not just the BDCs, but even the IPPs and other critical sectors of the economy in order to stabilize the currency and bring about a high level of predictability.
You raise a very important point. You rather would expand the gold purchase of crude, sort of, it's a barter trade of a sort, beyond just buying finished products onto the market, but also extending to other areas where we traditionally would have looked for dollars to buy.
Yes, because the issue is forex. I don't even believe in this barter unless it becomes exceedingly necessary. Because we know the value. We know the forex that is required. If you sell the gold, you make the dollar. So why don't you sell the gold and make that forex available to cover for whatever purchases you are engaging? That whole barter system is too complicated. And when I look at it, it's not very transparent. So let's deal with money for money. And I think that if we do that, it brings about a high level of transparency and allow the private sector to play a major role so that you don't transfer all the risk and the inefficiencies onto the government agencies like BOPS and the Bank of Ghana.
The previous government will say, well, you're taking a leaf from their fundamental policy there and that you should give them credit for it.
Well, we want something that will work. Even if what the previous government was doing is workable, we would adopt it. Okay. Because this country belongs to all of it. But clearly, what the previous government was doing had some flaws and some mistakes. We want to correct that. If there are some positives, we'll take that on board. Government is a continuum. But I don't believe that what they were doing was sustainable and would address the challenge. And that is why we are reviewing it. If we review it and it comes out that some portions of it is workable, we'll tweak it and work with it. So, I mean, we are all Ghanaians. We must learn to do what is right and proper.
And just before you go, another key matter that I know you've been dealing with today, talking to the finance minister and WAPCO. WAPCO confirms to us that after your meeting, they have given instructions for the restrictions that they had placed on the flow of gas to be lifted. You have confirmation of that?
Yes, I have confirmation. And Evans, with your permission, let me express my profound gratitude to WAPCO. What they've done today further sends a strong signal of the confidence we are building amongst ourselves. Because we are now going to be able to flow more than 30 MMscf of gas from the west to the east. And just today, one of the plants in the west developed a major problem. So what it means is that we would have had more or additional gas stranded in the west. And so I really want to thank them and assure them that tomorrow I'll personally go to the Ministry of Finance and follow this check for them so they can get that money. And then we sit and work around to see if we can get a workable solution going forward so we can remain current. It's difficult, but it's better to get gas than liquid fuels. Sometimes if you buy diesel fuel as against gas, gas is $10, diesel can be like $40 or $45. And so the savings is just so much. And if you don't evacuate the gas, it means that the gas is stranded in the west. You pay for it anyway. Then you use another money to buy liquid fuel. So you'll be taking a double hit. And some of the plants, if you don't buy the liquid fuel too, you pay for capacity. So I want to thank WAPCO and to assure them that we'll continue to work with them.
Okay, thank you very much. There's John Jinapor, the Energy Minister, who was just joined us with the very latest update on this. And one thing he said there that pretty critical, as far as the projected further benefits with the geopolitical situation conspiring with local dynamics to ensure that prices at the pumps continue to fall. He says they will be monitoring very, very close to what is happening with the OMCs and at the pumps to ensure that you don't have vultures taking advantage of the situation to line their pockets a bit more, but transferring the benefits to the consumer. And I have the Chief Executive Officer of the OMCs with me. You welcome that, Dr. Riverson.
Thank you.
Is that something you welcome? The minister just confirmed that because of the favorable factors, they will be enhancing scrutiny and monitoring so that your members pass on the benefit to the consumer. Is this something you welcome?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with him. It's something the MPA is doing already. And I'm proud to mention that there's no way any of my members would love to cheat the ordinary Ghanaian. And I'm very happy that the minister mentioned about the competition in the market. If you take a look at the past 5 to 10 years, it is my members' margin that has been going down every month on month, just to make sure that they keep on selling. There's one thing about projections that you need to be careful actualizing it. Okay, there are so many factors that that assumption will not make you have it in reality. In the past 2 or 3 windows where fuel price come down, we have actually taken initiative to make sure that our members do so, and MPA can confirm same. As far as I'm concerned, none of my members has been sanctioned for not adhering to the decrease in the prices today. So that tells me in confidence that we have adhered to it. The only delay that we saw yesterday being Monday and also being the very first day of the window it's also because of what I've told you, because it's a Monday, and then emails need to be sent to MPA to make sure that we are also adhering to a policy that makes that forces us to write and inform the regulator of our intention to reduce or increase our margins, or the pump prices. And like I always say, we normally are at the tail end, and that is why we always take the blame. But that is not the case, and we control just 5% of the entire pump price. And let me ask you, how can the 5% control that we have make us not change or alter when fuel prices are going up or down? The SRF price is a very important key, and the minister threw more light into that. The 2 main things, and Namosi also mentioned it, is the landing price. So your FOB price might be low, but your landing price due to the premiums might not be that low as you anticipate, because that one also assumed. So for all you know, landing price are not as low as we want. Or envisage, making the 4% inaccurate. Okay, and also the BDCs, I would say availability of understanding that we can, as oil marketing companies, pay within this particular window at a price that is prevailing.
Okay.
Other than what was in the previous month, are also some of the discussions that we're going to have along the along the line.
Okay, thank you. And Nana Mwesi, very briefly, on another subject that the minister talked about, on the gold for oil policy that they are now currently reviewing. He, however, says that he is in favor of using gold as, if you like, a currency to exchange for some of these products. And he's actually proposing that you even extend that particular policy to the boss and other agencies under his watch. Give me your quick thoughts on that, considering how controversial this subject has been over the last few months.
Once again, Ivan, you and I know very well that the supply of fuel to the Ghanaian market has never been a problem. There are numerous suppliers who are ready to put products on our market if the BDCs or BOS ask for that. The challenge is the forex or the supply of the dollar to procure this product. And so fuel or oil, as they call it, and let me correct here, there's a difference between an oil byproduct, that being the fuel, and the oil proper. The oil is a crude oil. But let's accept that the fuel is the oil this time around as they describe it. The importers need dollars to bring the product onshore. And sometimes there is a squeeze of the supply of this dollar. And government chose to probably mop up the gold in the system with local currency so that there is gold available. But the gold should not be made to procure the oil, as we stated from the very beginning of this policy, that this is going to amount to some, opaqueness and all that, because the gold itself is money. Convert the gold to dollar and make it available to the importers. Wherever they source the oil from shouldn't be your concern. Your most concern should be a fair price of this imported product. And so we are thinking that going forward, we believe that making the forest available, whether through the procurement of gold domestically or whatever, is the most important thing in the equation.
Okay, no, thank you very much. And that there, I guess, is food for thought, considering that the minister himself has said that they're looking to expand this approach to acquiring the products onto the market. It's one to look at, but also watch out for the reduction of prices at the pumps. And he says the MP is going to go around and do a bit more monitoring so they can ensure that the OMCs are passing on those benefits to you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.